Hello, Kidney Warriors! James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Great to have you here. You're going to find the information on Dadvice TV science-based and helpful. None of that woo-woo stuff, those fake cures or any of that stuff. We are talking about stuff, actual science-backed stuff with professionals. Now, for those of you that are new, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is James. I am a kidney warrior. I got in some bad trouble with my kidneys, ended up in the ICU for a bit of time, but I've been working on living a healthier lifestyle, taking care of my heart, get my blood pressure under control, exercising, eating better, and things have improved overall for me. And I'm living life. Still got bad kidneys, but I am feeling great and doing everything that I want to do. Now, tonight, we're going to talk about two very, very common questions that we get when we talk about kidney disease. Low protein diets and kidney disease, as well as plant-based diets and kidney disease. Now, I would like for you guys to tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you on a plant-based diet or are you on a low protein diet? What kind of diet are you on? Let us know in the comments so we can, maybe help answer some questions, or if we see some trends, we may be able to add a little bit more information during tonight's conversation. Also, let me know, what stage are you and how do you feel about your diet? Do you feel like you know enough about it, or do you feel like you're still a little bit lost and you're looking for some more help on what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be worried about? Now, for tonight, of course, we're going to get us a professional in here. And tonight we have the most popular co-host here on Dadvice TV. He is the author of what I tell you guys is the best book for kidney patients. It is called Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. This book makes understanding kidney disease so easy. And those things you're all worried about, I was one of you. I was worried about so many things in the beginning. You find out, hey, you know what? A lot of these things you don't have to worry about. This book makes it easy to understand and lets you know what you should be focusing on, what really matters as a kidney patient. And you can pick up a copy of this at, you could go to your local bookstore, ask them to order a copy in for you. Or there's a link you can go to, go.dadvicetv.com/book. That will take you directly to this book on Amazon.com. Now, the author is Dr. Steven Rosansky. So let's go ahead. We're going to bring him on. Oh, also, if you have any questions for the doctor, type them in the comments. He always saves time for later on in the broadcast to go through, and he picks questions and he answers them. So if you got a question, type it in there. And good luck to you that he'll pick it out and answer it during the call. All right, let's bring him on in. Give a big warm welcome to Dr. Steven Rosansky. Hey, Doc.
Hey, James. How are you doing?
Hey, doing fantastic up here in Michigan.
Happy 2023 to you and to everybody watching. Hopefully this will be a good, healthy year for everybody. And I'm excited to talk about the topics you introduced tonight. You want me to introduce myself first?
Yeah. We're already getting lots of great comments. This gives me a chance to pop them up on the screen.
So I am a nephrologist, kidney specialist. I practiced the kidney specialty for over 40 years. I'm retired. I actually do see patients at the free clinic, which I did today. I have the book that James mentioned, and I have over 100 peer-reviewed publications. I've done a lot of work on the issue of when to start dialysis, and I will say this to you folks who are anywhere near dialysis, please get the information from my book, which can help you from starting dialysis early and unnecessarily. Review that information with your kidney specialist, because I found in my research and the research of my colleagues that many people are starting early, and that may be harmful. I want to just put that in there. And tonight, we're going to talk about evidence-based nutrition. And what do I mean by evidence-based? Well, I said that I have about 100 peer-reviewed stuff in the literature. What does peer review mean? If I want to get anything published, whether it's my original research or it's an opinion piece, I have experts like myself from around the world review it before they're going to accept it into a journal. That's what peer reviewed means. The best type of research, evidence based, is randomized controlled trials. And those of you who have seen recent shows, you know that we talked about the randomized controlled trials that have shown the benefit of using those drugs called the ACEs and the ARBs, as well as the new drugs, the SGLT2s, for any of you that have protein in the urine, and the really strong evidence from these largely regulated, tightly regulated, large studies that show that these things will slow the decline of your kidney function. And we're going to talk tonight about the evidence for plant-based diets and low-protein diets and where they fit in for those of you who are worried about your kidney function progressing. And so let's start out with some really basic thing, and this to me is so important. Before any of you consider one of these restrictive, ridiculously hard to follow diets, and there's lots of them. My biggest complaint is those folks pushing the very low protein diets, which are extraordinarily hard and dangerous. They're hard to follow and they're dangerous. You need to know if there is potential benefit or harm for any diet. Now, all of you get on the web and you see anecdotes. You get on Facebook, and I've been on Facebook, and I've been on the web, and James has been on the web extensively. We've talked about many times about the anecdotal garbage on the web. Give you quick examples. How about using the breakfast swap? Somebody says you can eat something A instead of B for breakfast, and that's going to get your creatinine, you know, the measure of kidney function, from a 5 to a 2, or cure your kidney failure. I mean, this is absolute garbage. It's nonsense. And a lot of folks get out there and talk about testimonials for people who took whatever they're trying to sell and said that my kidney function went from A to B, which obviously is improvement. They're not talking about you about anybody gets worse. And I could tell you with 100% confidence that these magic cures are not cures. Diets do not cure kidney failure. They do not cure it. And that's why I titled this, you know, what you need to know about these cures for diets. If somebody shows a cure, what really happened, James? Because you went through this yourself. What happened?
They most likely had an AKI, an acute kidney injury, which is temporary. Maybe they were dehydrated because they were sick, and now they've got their fluids, and it went up, which would have happened no matter what, without the magic pill, without the woo-woo.
A plus, James. Great answer. You got it. You're right on it. And be aware of someone who's trying to sell you things like keto acid supplements and vitamin product as part of a low protein diet cure. First of all, these supplements are not regulated by the FDA. They may contain harmful substances. And the National Kidney Foundation in this country has recommended strongly that you not take these supplements because they can have bad things in them that can harm you and your kidneys. And for most of the, not most of it, all of the products, there's really no randomized controlled trials. Someone may tell you, oh, we're going to do a study about my particular product, but this is anecdotal. It's not peer reviewed. These things that anybody is telling you about their product and that we're going to give it to a few people and we're going to show you that it really works. It's not real science. It's not randomized controlled, and it's not peer reviewed. And a lot of you go on social media and you see stuff like, don't eat protein if you got kidney disease. Eat no protein. Ridiculous. Eat no potassium. Also very ridiculous. And we're going to talk today why this is totally wrong and dangerous. And, let's face it, fear is something that gets people's attention. And there's enormous amount of fear mongering on social media. You are being targeted because you were told you have kidney disease and you're targeted due to your fear. I get it. I see patients all the time, and James knows this very well. Someone says you got kidney disease, the immediate thing is, I'm stuck. I'm going to be on dialysis. I'm going to die early. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. And so many people say, we're going to stop the progression of incurable kidney disease. It's to get you afraid and to waste your money, to get you to buy a magic pill.
They get you afraid, so you open up your wallet and start giving them money in hope that it'll fix it.
A magic pill like a kidney cleanse diet. Oh my goodness, this is absolute BS. It's woo-woo. Why shouldn't you fear? Let's go right to the meat of the issue. Why you should not be terrified about dialysis. Okay, you go on, you get on Google, look up your CKD, and you hear about stages of CKD and about dialysis. The reality of it is that most people with CKD3, and even those with CKD4, CKD3, EGFR roughly 30 to 60, CKD4 less than 30, 15 to 30 actually. It is rare, extremely rare, even in 3 and 4, that you're going to go on dialysis and need a transplant. Another really important thing, if your EGFR is over 60, you probably do not have kidney disease. That's stage 1 and 2, which is a BS stages. There aren't any real stages 1 and 2, unless you have protein in the urine. If you're over 60 and you have protein in the urine, you certainly may have kidney disease, okay? If you have 3A, CKD 3A, stage 3A, which is roughly, these are just rough round numbers, 45 to 60 EGFR. If you're one of these folks, which is the vast majority of you that are probably listening to this, if you don't have protein in the urine, you may not have CKD at 45 to 60, depending on your age. Those of you who are over 70, probably a 45 to 60 number may be okay for your age. So those things you need to be aware of from the get-go. So we're going to discuss today who needs a special diet and who doesn't need it, and what diet to use, and why you should consider the diet that you're going on. You need to know why you're going on the diet. Most people don't. The first statement that I'll make, blanket statement, if your CKD 1 to 4 and your EGFR is over 30, for the vast majority of you, there's no need for any of those severely restrictive diets. Don't waste your time, waste your money, or go through the pain of being on an unpleasant diet. And before you go for a diet cure of your CKD, be sure you're getting treatment that works. There are things that work. Don't ignore the things that work and go for the woo-woo or the kidney cleanse or the kidney pill or this other nonsense. And what works are the ACEs and the ARBs and the SGLT2s, especially if you've got protein in the urine. They will slow the decline of your kidney function. Now, most of you, I would guess, and James may be the exception, are not aware of why I recommend for most CKD patients, if you've really got CKD, to be on a diet. These diets are a way to sell books. These diets are a way to get you scared. These diets tell you this is the way for you to avoid dialysis. Nonsense. Since going on dialysis and getting end-stage kidney failure is rare, what is the goal then? Most people don't know. Why are you going on any kind of different diet than you've been on? If you are the average person that's got CKD 3 or 4 or even 5, why are you going on the diet? James knows this.
I'm going to say it's to protect your heart, because kidney disease is a risk factor for heart disease and that's what's going to kill you.
Brilliant, James. Brilliant. I love it. Okay. So basically, we all, especially in this country, when we were, anyway, I won't digress. Most people in the developed world have hardening of the arteries. They get these cholesterol plaques in the arteries, building up over decades, and it gets faster as we age. And if we happen to have kidney disease, it will be even faster. So your goal is to slow it down. You want to slow it down so that you won't get those plaques in the arteries to the heart or the arteries to your neck or your legs, so you don't get heart attacks, you don't get angina, you don't get strokes, and you don't get a need to have surgery on your legs because of poor blood supply. We don't reverse the atherosclerosis. We're slowing it down. There's no cure for it. There are things you can do to slow it down, and you have control over most of these things. Most of it is in your hands. How do you control the bad outcomes from having this risk of having hardening of the arteries and the things that go along with it? What are the things, James, that you can do, and you know them well, to prevent the bad outcomes?
Number one, if you're a smoker, you got to stop smoking. Easy right there. Not easy to do, but it's an easy thing to check off the list. You got to get your blood pressure under control so it's not outrageous, and you're going to eat a heart-healthy diet. You're going to exercise. That's okay. A huge benefit.
Okay. So now, here's something that most of you probably don't think about. And people want a pill for their disease. They want a diet. They want a recipe. But guess what? The things that James mentioned are much bigger factors to help you live longer and not get these problems from hardening of the arteries, clotting off your arteries, okay? Which also, by the way, as you get older, makes your kidney function worse because it messes up the arteries to your kidneys, not just your heart, not just your brain, not just your legs, but to your kidneys too. For sure, smoking, way ahead of diet. Exercise, way ahead of diet. Way ahead in terms of its effect. Getting your blood pressure to go way ahead of diet. These things have been proven over and over again that they are going to help you with the reason why you're going on a diet, to slow down the hardening of the arteries. So that's why you're going on the diet. You're not going on the diet to cure your kidney failure. You're not going on the diet to reverse, kidney function problems. You're going on the diet to live longer and not have a problem with hardening of the arteries. And what are those things that comes as a result of that? So let's go ahead and go right to the low protein diet. Okay. So any of you who are considering these restrictive low protein diet, you need the facts. What are the facts? First of all, better nutrition means better survival. Very simple. In general, better nutrition means more protein, not less protein. Okay, let that sink in. Protein is critical to your health. And as your kidney function gets worse, your nutritional state gets worse. As you get older, your nutritional state generally gets worse. You lose a lot of your muscle, and you need more protein, not less. As you go on towards dialysis with CKD5, if your weight's going down, you're not going to survive as long as somebody who's maintaining their weight. So, it's not all, hey, let's just get skinny and not eat protein. That's not the way it goes. You need adequate calories so that your protein is not being eaten up. And there's a lot of data, and I've looked at this data. I've done papers on the data, peer-reviewed papers, showing the relationship between the blood level of protein and the protein level in your blood, called serum albumin. Some of you may see this on your blood report. There's a good relationship between serum albumin, your blood protein level, and how long you're going to survive, especially once you get to dialysis. No question about it. I'll tell you, I've done a lot of work on how people who wind up going on dialysis, what predicts how long they're going to live. And it's not how much dialysis you're getting. We've tried all kinds of things, bells and whistles, to get better dialysis, but guess what? The nutritional factor is the one that matters. Dialysis doesn't matter at all. How much you're getting, whether you're getting five. Anyway, we won't digress to dialysis because the vast majority of you are nowhere near dialysis. But you get this malnutrition as your kidney function gets worse. So you got to be aware of that. Okay, what does the research say? What is the evidence for or against protein restriction for the vast majority of you, which are CKD3, some CKD4, occasional CKD5 out there? What's the evidence? What can I say about protein restriction and whether it slows decline of kidney function? The evidence is inconclusive at best. Inconclusive. You don't want to go on some crazy diet for inconclusive. But let me break it down further, okay? Basically, the bottom line is there's no doubt in my mind and in most of my colleagues that very low protein diet, there's no evidence that that's a good idea to slow decline of kidney function. And let's go right on to diabetics. What about diabetics and low protein, James? Did you get that message?
Dangerous.
Tell us why.
They need protein. Your body needs protein, fat, or carbs. And if you're getting your energy and it's not from protein, where else is it coming from? It's not healthy for diabetics. It could cause sudden changes in their blood sugar. It's just not the right thing to do.
You're exactly right. So let's think about it. The things that we eat are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay. And as a diabetic, you got to restrict your carbs. There's no two ways about it. You got to reduce your carbs or your blood sugars go sky high. Not a good thing. So then you got fats or protein left. And if you're going to severely restrict protein, you're going to drop your sugar. And there are people who do that and die from low sugar. It is extremely dangerous. And that's why the vast majority of research on low protein, they exclude diabetics. Nobody wants to put somebody on a low protein diet and have somebody die because they're trying to prove whether a diet helps them. No. So diabetics are excluded. And for diabetics, and this is basically for non-diabetics, in my opinion, and in the what I call my smart diet. People say, "Where'd you get that smart diet?" It just makes sense to me, so I call it the smart diet. It's in my book. If you see my book, I go in great detail about the smart diet. It's a diet, same as we recommend for diabetics, roughly 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight of protein or 0.4 grams per pound. So if you happen to be around 200 pounds, that's around 80 grams of protein. And compare that to the average American diet, which is 100 to 120. So it is already a restrictive diet compared to the average American diet.
Yeah, and a number of people were just asking about how much protein they should eat in a day. So I hope everyone got what you just talked about, which is in your book about smart diet for calculating their protein.
We're going to discuss a little bit more now, James. We're going to dig in a little bit more. So here's something that I think was a brilliant meta-analysis. What is a meta-analysis? Big. It's a big analysis. So some academics, kind of like myself, people who do publications, they reviewed all of the research on low protein diet and how it affects decline of kidney function. This is a massive study, had to be peer reviewed. Again, you can't get stuff published unless other experts look at it and say, okay, we agree with your conclusions. And again, these studies are almost without any diabetics. Very rare to have a diabetic study. So what they found is mild restriction, which is what we just went through, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, which most of the world uses kilograms, we use pounds, or roughly 0.4 grams per pound, right? 200 pounds would be 80 grams, okay? 0.4 grams per pound. That would be roughly a 60 to 80 gram protein diet for most of you. That's a mild restriction, which I recommend. I don't think there's any reason that shouldn't be considered.
Now,
And they can,
question, Doc.
yeah,
When they're calculating that, say they're obese, are they using their target weight or their current weight?
James, I think they use their current weight, but you're right. There is a lot of confusion about whether you should use lean body weight or your actual weight. I would say you can use your actual weight, and that's fine. Okay. If you use a lean body weight, you're going to come out with a lower level, but I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay with this. And so this is what this meta-analysis compared. And they had lots of studies to do this. They compared the mild restriction to a moderate restriction, not the severe crazy stuff. So they compared being on a 0.8 gram per kilogram versus a 0.6 gram per kilogram, or a 0.4 gram per pound versus, a 0.3 gram per pound. So it's roughly, depending on your weight, comparing a 60 to 80 gram versus a 40 to 60 gram. Okay. The results, no difference in the rate of loss of kidney function. No difference. This is looking at all of the studies that were available. Okay. Let that sink in.
And that
Now,
0.3, I don't know how a person could eat that little protein
we're
because
not,
it
we're
seems
getting,
like everything has protein added in it.
yeah. Well, James, we're getting into the really crazy stuff. What about very low protein diets? This is the diet that some advocate, they've written books about. They also try to sell you these keto acid supplements to be on this crazy, very low protein diet. And these are expensive supplements. And again, they're not FDA regulated. Why do you have to be on the keto acid supplements? Because they know you're going to get malnutrition. If you don't get enough protein, you're not going to get essential protein components and you're going to get malnutrition. And the very low protein is crazy. It's crazy. It's zero point 0.3 grams per pound. I'm sorry, 0.15 gram per pound, 0.15 gram per pound. 20 to 30 grams per day, or 0.3 grams per kilogram. It makes no sense. Compliance will be extremely poor, as you'd expect. The studies that looked at it have been very, very small, and the compliance has been terrible, as you'd expect. And there's only one randomized controlled trial that looked at this very low protein diet. And guess what? Overall, long term, looking at these folks that were on the very low protein diet, they had a higher mortality than people on the moderate or the higher protein diet. So be careful with these very low protein diets. I think a moderate restriction makes sense, a mild restriction makes sense. And
I'll
we'll
tell you,
get,
probably the only positive thing about that extremely low protein is, with them having a shorter life, their misery of trying to live on that type of diet ended sooner.
I like that. You're right, James. I don't have an argument
That's the only positive I can think of.
there. Okay. What about high protein? High protein is not good for the kidneys. Okay. And that's why and guess what? If you're going to eat a protein and you want to decide whether to eat a plant-based or an animal-based protein, it turns out, first of all, high protein, no argument, is not good for the kidneys. Okay. The next question is, what's better for the kidneys, a plant-based protein or an animal-based protein? The answer, a plant-based protein. Okay. And there's a relationship between intake of more red meat and having kidney disease. And there is a relationship with having more of the red meat and increased risk of going on dialysis, especially processed meats. And we're going to talk about that and get a little more specific in a few minutes. So I'm going to move on, unless you have some burning questions, James, to my
No,
smart diet.
keep going. Let's get the information out, and everyone out there, type in your questions. I've been tagging a lot of them for you, Doc, for a little bit later. But let's get this great information out there for those that aren't able to watch the full hour in one sitting.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, so my smart diet, again, it's in my book. I call it my smart diet. It's nothing, nothing amazing or brilliant. I'm just taking evidence and research from many other much smarter people about diets than I am. I go to them and get all the best information available. That's in my smart diet. Again, it's this moderate protein restriction to prevent muscle breakdown. It's around 80 milligrams per kilogram, or 40 milligrams per pound. And I can tell you, probably 2 out of 3 of you are not on a healthy diet. So you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go on vegan. You don't have to go on these, what is it? The keto diets. Don't go crazy with diets. Make your life easy, because the diet, again, is just one of the many factors that you're trying to control to help you from getting the bad effects of hardening of the arteries. And my smart diet, simple, plant-based foods, lots of fiber, low saturated fat, relatively low in sodium, relatively high in potassium. So all you need to know, you don't have to go so crazy with your diet and measuring things out and absolutely restricting anything. Enjoy life, because this is just one of the many things you're going to do if you've got CKD to live longer. Remember that. And if you're on a healthy diet, it can decrease your mortality. There's good evidence for that. And a plant-based diet is the healthy diet, no question about it. It can decrease your diabetes problems. It can decrease your blood pressure problems. And obviously it can decrease problems with obesity. And my smart diet, these plant-based diets, Mediterranean diets, I mean, there's all different names for the diets. I don't claim, I'm taken from all of these various sources, and they're all basically the same. They can decrease the protein in the urine, and that can slow the decline of your kidney function. A lot of data on that. This type of diet will lower your risk of losing your kidney function. Okay, plant-based diets. And again, for most of you, why are you on a diet? To decrease your risk of hardening of the arteries and all the bad things that come of it. So know why you're on it and why you should consider it. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of food detail. I'll touch on it a little bit tonight. There's a lot more of it in my book. I also tell you where to get free recipes for plant-based diets, Mediterranean diets. There's a lot of stuff there for free. You want to buy a diet cookbook, plant-based, be my guest. That's very reasonable. So my smart diet, less processed food, very simple, less fast food, eating natural foods, vegetables, grains, fruits, especially whole grains, stuff that's colored. Big message, very simple message. If you get nothing else out of this talk, remember, the more color on your plate, the healthier your diet. Look for lots of color in fruits and vegetables. When you go to get fast food, you get a lot of color. You get white bread, you get maybe you get fried stuff, you get white and brown.
Yeah, exactly. White, brown, and gray. Sometimes you got
No
some
color.
gravy.
Color. The maximum variety of plants, fruits, seeds, nuts. Guess what this will do? And we're not going to get into a discussion on it tonight because this is an interesting area. It's going to help your gut microbiome. I guess a lot of you have heard about the gut microbiome. These are all the microorganisms in your gut, and they have an enormous effect on all kinds of health, physical and mental health issues, enormous effects. And the main message on the gut microbiome: the more color, the more variety, the more fruits, nuts, vegetables that you can, all varieties you can find, especially the more fiber in your diet, the more of these gut microbes you're going to have. And in general, research has shown that the more gut microbes you got, the longer you're going to live. So these things are all complementing one another. So, what are the bad things that don't have fiber, that are the processed foods, things you all love? The pizza, the bagels, the crackers, the biscuits, the breadcrumbs, the white bread, the rice, the white rice, the tortillas, the muffins, the pretzels, the chips, the noodles, the waffles. Even the so-called healthy snacks are not healthy. And again, my book will go into great detail if any of you are interested. Most of the things I just mentioned don't have any real nutritional value. When you eat fruits and nuts and things with lots of color on your plate, these things have nutritional value. They provide vitamins and minerals and proteins that you need. Less carbs is definitely good. Less carbs. You don't have to go keto. No way. Absolutely no need for keto. Absolutely not. Get away from the added sugar. And then, there's so many things have added sugar. And then, last but not least, get off those sugary drinks. Get off the Coca-Cola pit. Coca-Cola, they've killed more people with Coca-Cola and all the Coca-Cola products and Pepsi products than anything else out there. And when I was a kid, it used to bother me. I'd hear about people in the developing world that take their kids off the breast and give them formula and give them Coke.
Oh,
We were killing people, sending this garbage around the world. Oh, anyway, I won't belabor that. That's troubled me. James, we're going to finish up the talk, talking about three things: sodium, potassium, and fiber. Three critical elements in your diet. All right. And we talked a lot about the ACEs and the ARBs. If you don't know what an ACE, if you, if you don't know
Coke's
what an
calling. They're
ACE,
like, hey, come on. We're supported by dentists. We're keeping them in business, rotting people's teeth one child at a time.
yeah, right. No, it's not. It wouldn't be so bad if all you do is lose your teeth, but you get diabetes and you die way earlier than you need to by eating all these sugary drinks and eating all these fast foods. It's killing people. It is killing people. There's no two ways about it. All right, what about sodium? Like we were talking about sodium in your diet. We know that if you are on an ACE or an ARB, and I'm not going to give you the list. I've given recent talks a lot about ACE and ARBs and urine protein. If you're on one of these ACEs or ARBs and you also restrict your sodium, guess what? You're going to decrease your urine protein by up to 50% more.
Boom.
So not only do you want to be on an ACE or ARB, but you want to get on a low sodium. And for most of you may already know this, the sodium that you're eating is in the foods, not in the salt shaker by and large. Most foods, especially processed foods, they are going to come with a ton of sodium. And if you get less sodium in your diet, you can get your blood pressure down. You can get to decrease the protein in the urine. And again, these processed foods, and I'll give you some of the meats that are processed meats: hot dogs, sausages, the cheeses, the burgers, fast foods for sure. I'll tell you a quick. I listened to a great lecture by a guy who's an expert on the microbiome. I got to tell you the story. This is an anecdote, and he admits it's an anecdote, but and this guy's a scientist. This guy is doing lots of great work on the microbiome. He had his son, paid his son to eat fast food for as long as he could do it every day, only fast food.
Uh-huh. Oh
So
my
he got a
goodness.
stool. He got a stool sample to measure the microbiome. This is part of the research they do. They do stool samples to measure microbiome. He got it before they did fast food for like, I don't know, a week or two. I don't know how long. Actually, as a kid did it for a week. He said, "Dad, can I quit?" You know what the dad said? No. So he did it for 2 weeks. He wiped out his gut microbiome.
Killed it all, yeah. And it's so helpful. You need it.
Anyway, fast food. Anyway, so you want to try to restrict your sodium to around 2 grams, which unfortunately could be one Chinese food dish. I mean, I'm not telling you not to go out and eat Chinese food, not to go out and never have pizza, but you want to not make this your regular diet on occasion. Quarter pounder has a gram of sodium, you know,
Well,
and
you know what makes it worse? You go out and you're like, I'm not going to get the Whopper. I'm going
right.
to get the Impossible Whopper, that plant-based one, packed full of sodium, like almost a full day's sodium. And the Whopper, the cheese, the bun. Oh my goodness, it's not healthy at all.
That's very good observation. Yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, so there are going to be meat substitutes, okay? And I'm all for the meat substitutes for the environment, for the climate. But James is absolutely right. Make sure if you're going to eat meat substitutes that you look at what's in there in terms of the salt in there. There's lots of salt in these meat substitutes. um, and again, you're much better off with natural stuff. I mean, if you got to eat meat, probably better off eating a plant-based meat equivalent. But you're better off just eating the plants. No two ways about that. What about potassium? Another thing that people are so misinformed about. Should you worry about your potassium? The main way to know if you need to worry about your potassium is what, James? The main way to know if you should worry about your potassium.
Well, I'm going to say your labs.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
got it. James, you're getting an A plus tonight.
Hey, and that was a guess. I'm like, I just
You're
look at my labs. If it's high, then I got to cut it back.
Even if you go to CKD 4 and 5, you're probably okay with plant-based diets as long as you're keeping your potassium. For most of the kidney specialists, we say under 5.5. A lot of the GPs will go 5. I get nervous. But get that get your potassium measured, and if it's not high, you're good with a plant-based diet all the way to CKD 4 and 5. And why is your potassium up if you get it measured? Most of you are not having high potassium because of your kidneys. You're getting high potassium because you're on a medicine like the one we talked about last time, James. Remember the one you're on, the aldo blockers,
Mm-hmm.
spironolactone, which we're not going to get into tonight. Most of the potassium issues are related to your medicines. No need to stop the fruit and vegetables. Get your blood test. If it's okay, you can continue to take potassium in your diet. Why? Because when you eat plant-based diets with less sodium, higher potassium, this can also slow your decline of kidney function. Okay? Probably more important than this very low protein for sure, right? And it decreases your blood pressure. And it decreases your stroke risk and your risk of kidney disease. Potassium is good. Don't stay away from potassium. If you are on a very low protein diet, you're more likely to get kidney disease. Last thing, and then we'll get questions. Fiber. Plant-based diets are high in fiber. Fiber is great for the
Yes.
microbiome. Great. It decreases, again, like potassium, decreases your risk of kidney disease. Fiber is great. Decreases all-cause mortality. Decrease your risk of hardening of the arteries, decrease your risk of colon cancer, decrease your irritable bowel problems. And you don't need to take a pill, for your gut microbiome. Eat fiber, eat plants. You're going to eat plenty of fiber. I'm not opposed to having fiber pills. That's fine. Fiber supplements are fine. Eating yogurt is fine and so forth. But we're not going to get into the microbiome. I think I've discussed enough specifics on diet, and let's try to answer some questions, James.
All righty. So let me bring up some which I've tagged. Um, so one question that came up, and this comes up quite often, we talk about low protein diets, and a lot of people think that the problem is they're eating their protein and it's like a basket and it spills off into their urine, and they wonder, oh, the bubbles in my urine, is that an indicator of protein issues or something like that? So can you talk a little bit about bubbles in the urine?
Okay, first of all, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you may have bubbles in the urine. If somebody has high protein in the urine, and again, those of you who are told by your doctor that you've got protein in the urine, I recommend, and I've shown you this, that you get the urine protein dipsticks, which I've got right here, which you can
Yep.
get
And
on
we have a link to the ones that you recommend in the description of the video for anyone who may want to get those for
Amazon.
themselves.
But yeah, I mean, in fact, if you are having a lot of protein in the urine, what you eat is you don't need to restrict the protein. If anything, you may want to have be on a higher protein diet to prevent malnutrition. But the way to decrease the protein in the diet is not by a low protein diet. I mean, the way to decrease protein in the urine is not by a low protein diet. Repeat, the way to decrease protein in the urine is not by a low protein diet. You do it with the things we discussed in the other Dadvice TV video. We discussed it in detail.
Yeah, very good. Now, can you talk a little bit about someone who perhaps is around 70 years old and they're stage 3? Is that something they really need to be worrying about?
Again, if you're 70, you probably don't have CKD. If you're stage three is 30 to 60. If you're 30 to 45, yes, you have CKD. If you're 45 to 60 and you're over 70, you may not even have CKD, again, unless you've got protein in the urine. Not to worry, you're not going to go on dialysis.
Awesome. And then Carol has a great question. Does lisinopril raise potassium? Her son's on 5 milligrams a day.
Okay, first of all, if you've got protein in the urine, you need to be on the maximum dose of one of these drugs. And lisinopril maximum dose is probably up at around 40 or 80. 5 milligrams is peanuts. Not enough to really do what you want it to do. You need to be on maximum dose to decrease the protein in the urine and slow the decline. Now, yes, ACEs and ARBs can raise the potassium, and it needs to be, followed. But you don't want to stop the ACE or ARB if your potassium goes up. And I'm going to discuss this next talk about evidence that people who stop their ACE and ARB wind up dying sooner than they needed to or wind up getting kidney failure. So too many people are stopping the ACE or the ARB because they have a abnormal potassium. And yeah, it does raise it, but it just needs to be monitored, and there's ways to manage it.
Perfect. Now, earlier we talked about stopping those sugary drinks, those dark ones like Coke and Pepsi. What are your thoughts on like Diet 7 Up, those clear ones that aren't using soda, but they're using another artificial sweetener?
Turns out that these artificial sweeteners are terrible. We're getting more and more research about artificial sweeteners. They are harmful. They are not doing you any good in the long run. So just because you're on a drink that has artificial sweetener, okay, it won't raise your sugar if you're a diabetic, yeah, but it will also have other harmful health effects. Do not drink, do not take lots of artificial sweetener. Not good for you. Not good for
All
you.
right. Now, Ray, one of our regulars over in Europe, asked how many revisions are there on your book?
There's actually just two, and actually the second one is a minor revision. And the book first came out in 22, the first revision in 20, the revision in 21. So it's very new. I think it's one of, if not the newest book out there on kidney disease. And I'll tell you, anything that needs to be updated, you're going to hear it right here on Dadvice TV. I would say
Boom.
90% or 95% of what's in there is up to date. And you know, things change, but it is a very current book.
Yeah, very good. Someone just asked, what are your thoughts on it? I'm going to try to pronounce these drugs. Hydralazine, and you see it on the screen, right? I don't want to butcher them. They're blood pressure medications. Are they good for kidney patients?
Hydralazine is a drug that is used 3 times a day. It is not a drug that I would recommend for blood pressure control. It's an old drug. I use it. I have certain patients that you can use it on that, but you not only got to use it by itself, you got to use it with a beta blocker and a diuretic. Otherwise, it won't work. So hydralazine, I don't recommend. No benefit for the kidneys. No harm either. Diltiazem, again, it's a decent blood pressure drug. It's called a calcium channel blocker. No benefit for the kidneys. Although there was one study a long time ago that showed maybe it decreases urine protein. So I will say diltiazem has a benefit to slow heart rate, lowers blood pressure. It's a good drug for African Americans with high blood pressure, especially, and it may decrease protein in the urine. So I'm good with diltiazem.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to take a look and see if there is any questions you'd like to answer there? And if anybody out there has a question, type them in now. We've had a very active comment section during today's show.
I some of these I can't really understand.
Some of them I asked questions during the show, like what stage are you, how long have you been at? And a lot of people were chiming in and answering, which is great.
Okay, so sugar rate. Losartan taken for your heart is good for your kidneys. Absolutely. Losartan is an ARB. And again, the ACEs and the ARBs, the ACEs end in pril, like captopril, lisinopril. The ARBs end in tan, okay, like losartan. And they are good drugs for the heart. They're good drugs for the kidneys. And if you go on them, you shouldn't stop them just because you have some rise in potassium or some decline in your kidney number, because these drugs long term can save you from dying of heart problems and can save you from getting kidney failure. So they are important drugs to take if you've got protein in your urine. Now, I'm not saying don't eat any burgers, don't eat any meat. I mean, you need to, if you can, decrease the amount of meat you eat and eat more plants and have more colors on your plate.
Yeah, I still eat like chicken breast. I don't eat steak. I pretty much cut out all red meat. I stick with, smaller amounts of chicken and lots of color and vegetables when I make a meal.
Somebody's asking me about CKD5, not on dialysis, on a vegan diet. I have nothing against it, but be sure, as I said earlier, as you get worse kidney function, as it gets down to 15 or 10, you're going to get malnutrition. Do not eat low protein. Make sure you're getting adequate protein so you don't get malnourished. That's an important message from tonight's talk. um, I'm not 60 years old. They had told me if I could have made a better choice. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, a lot of people unfortunately don't know about stuff we're talking about tonight. And hopefully you can hear it and tell other people and try to help your family eat better, eat less meat and more protein.
Well, a bunch of questions just came in at the bottom if you scroll down there.
Well, let me just answer common sense.
Yep.
Cut out meat, protein, lowered sodium, potassium, phosphorus. Only vegetables or veggie products. EGFR numbers going back. So here's the thing about the doctor wants to add a potassium pill, low potassium. Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
that's me.
if you've got low potassium, then you need potassium. And now I don't know how and again, the one thing that we didn't mention tonight is your EGFR number is going to vary a lot. Don't get excited by one number. I can't tell you how many patients their EGFR will change from one visit to the next. I just saw a patient today. His creatinine will be 2 to 3 to 2 to 3 bounces, and that's a massive change in EGFR with a creatinine
Yeah.
of 2 to 3. It can go anywhere from 30 to to 25 to 40 easily. So you need the trend in your laboratory values. One particular EGFR is not something to get worried about. And if your potassium is low, you need to get potassium. Absolutely. Um, did you have one you wanted to give me, James?
Yeah, there was let me find her question. Michelle asked about hydrochlorothiazide. I think that's one of the ones I take for blood pressure. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the water pills are great for all blood pressure meds. They will help you get better control of your blood pressure with a water pill. I think that we're not using enough of a different. I use a lot of hydrochlorothiazide. It's a water pill. And I use a very low dose, 12.5 milligrams up to 25 milligrams. High grotin is actually a better water pill, clothalidone, but it's not used very much. Vic Jacobs was saying that CKD3A should have told me 15 years ago.
Oh,
Again, if you've got 3A, you've had it 15 years, this is just the point. I mean, it's not really kidney disease. Most of you have EGFRs of 45 to 60, not to worry, especially if you've got protein in the urine. I think that makes the point very well. Um,
and there's a few questions. This one comes up quite often, and we've never really addressed it. Any thoughts on stem cell therapy? You know, there are people pushing that as a cure for kidney disease or a fix to help. Any
no,
thoughts?
no. Waste of money, dangerous. I can't tell you how many people I've heard about that are getting these stem cells from what do you call osteopaths and the chiropractors
Yeah,
getting
you're sure the chiropractor giving you a stem cell
crazy,
isn't going to help?
crazy stuff. No, stay away from it. Stay away from it. And someone else is talking about carnivore diet. Okay, carnivore diet, Becky. Yeah, nonsense. Nonsense. Again, please, smart diet. Don't go crazy. Don't go extreme. Just try to eat more fruits and vegetables, eat more seeds, try to decrease your protein some. That's all you need to do. And again, it's just one of the many things that you're going to do to decrease your risk of hardening of the arteries, not to cure your kidney failure. It does not cure your kidney failure. And the carnivore diet is, I won't get into it because we don't have time, but no need to go into any of these crazy diets.
And what about statins? Any
Sat
thoughts on statins?
Absolutely. I would say anybody with CKD, that's a risk factor for atherosclerosis. Yes, get on a statin. I would say for sure. Get on a statin and get your LDL, your bad cholesterol. I shoot for 60 to 100. The lower the better. Get on a statin and tell your doctor he or she shouldn't mess around with low dose. Get your bad cholesterol down. That's going to be good to slow down the hardening of the arteries. That's one of the things, in addition to the exercise, stop smoking, controlling blood pressure, and the diet we talked about, that can decrease this progression, which we all get. We get hardening of the arteries as we age.
All right, Doc. It is the top of the hour. This has been a wonderful conversation with lots of great information. Hopefully, a lot of people are now not going to make the incorrect decision on those low protein diets and suffer for no reason, and that they're going to focus more on living healthy, eating more plants and fruits, vegetables, and all that, which actually isn't that hard. And I want to mention your book one more time, just in case anyone out there is like, hey, I like listening to Dr. Rowe. I want to learn more about his diet and other stuff about kidney disease. His book is called Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. You can get it at Amazon by going to go.dadvicetv.com/book, or show some love to some of your local mom and pop bookstores. give them a call. They'll order a copy in for you and you can go pick it up. And I love supporting those mom and pop bookstores. They need it. Amazon's rolling in plenty of money. He's building spacecrafts and buying social media sites. Let's show some love. Let's help the people who are like us, working really hard, trying to get by and have their own little business. All right. Thanks, Doc. And thanks all of you. This is the last scheduled show for this month, but there might be some that pop up later this month. You can learn more about Dr. Rosansky in the links down below. We got a link to get those urine strips he recommends, so you can keep an eye on that. We have videos talking about those. And there are a number of questions we couldn't get to that we have had videos about. One was about medications for helping your kidneys. We just did one of those in November or December. So go to YouTube, go to the live section on Dadvice TV's channel, and you'll see all those. Or you can go to dadvicetv.com, do a search, and find those videos. All right. Thank you so much, Doc. And thank you, everybody out there. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.